Well, hello and welcome to McCool's Eye Design. My name is Nick. It looks like summer's here. I was out with a friend last night and he asked me, what is it about woodworking that I love so much? And it got me thinking. Because there must be a million good reasons why we do woodworking. And working on the basis that there are millions of woodworkers, then there must be millions of reasons. This is one of my reasons, yeah. A 47-year-old sawhorse. And more of that later. When you think that there are carpenters, joiners, cabinet makers, lathe turners, it's just a plethora of different genres of woodwork. But we all have one thing in common, we like what we do. We enjoy what we do. Now that's whether you're doing it professionally. If you're doing woodwork professionally and you're doing something you love, then you'll never work a day in your life. If you're doing it as a hobby, it could be because of escapism, you want to get away from the stresses and strains of everyday life. You could have a very demanding job, and going into a workshop can relieve some of that stress. And we can all do it for so many different reasons. Sometimes we're professionals, sometimes we're hobbyists, sometimes we're just weekend warriors that do it now and again. Sometimes we work in a garage or a small workshop like this, or sometimes a professional workshop, and sometimes even on your patio, just making garden furniture and things like that. The one thing that we have in common is that we all love working with wood. So I've got a lovely piece of beech here, which has got something to do with the sawhorse that I showed you. I'll come back to that in a moment or two. I'm just going to cut it up today so that I've got it ready to go tomorrow. So I can leave the wood rest overnight. Okay, that beech I picked up from my timber supplier this morning, mainly because it was going begging, and it's got something to do with this sawhorse that I showed you earlier. And that is going to be, I'm going to come back to that in a second, because that's one of the reasons that I woodwork. I'm just going to let this rest so that the tension comes out of it now that I've cut it. So I let the tension come out overnight, and then I can pop something together tomorrow. Let's go over to the sawhorse and I'll tell you one of my reasons why I woodwork. When I was, I don't know if you've watched my videos on the bench build. I think it's the first one of the series. The series of 3, and it's the first one that I think I mention it. I had an advantage of building that bench because I was building it with a lot of love, and the reason for that, it was for my parents-in-law. I respect and love them very much, and it was a gift for them. So I see that as an advantage, and in that way it just helps me through the build, and it gives me the satisfaction of knowing, and they did, by the way, a satisfaction of knowing that I'm making something that somebody will appreciate. And it doesn't have to always be family, it can be friends, it can be an acquaintance, it can be even a commission piece. If it's a commission piece, I still put the amount of effort that I would in as if it was for a loved one, because anything that goes out to that door, I want to have my stamp of approval on it, and my stamp of approval, in all honesty, is quite high. It can be a bit of a pain. I'm a Virgo, so we're a bit of a perfectionist. But if you've seen my sock drawer, then you know I'm not really a Virgo. So I don't know. I just guess it's something that we woodworkers like to do. I mentioned in my last video about politicians, how they under-deliver, and how woodworkers, we all like to over-deliver. One of the other things, I mean, not everything with family. My dad's up there, and well, his photograph's up there. My dad passed away a good few years ago, and he was a great woodworker. But we had a difference of opinion when it came to woodworking, in as much that he was also very much a perfectionist. He was a fantastic woodworker, but he loved shiny wood. You know, everything had to be glossy and buffed to perfection, which meant in our house, growing up, there was a lot of varnished wood going around the place. Now, I can't stand shiny wood. I like natural looking woods, and that's why I use much more hard waxes and things like that. If I'm going to use a varnish, it's probably going to be a matte, and if it's not a matte, I might go up to a satin, but I just don't like shine. My dad, if he couldn't see a face in it, he wasn't happy. So we all like wood in different ways. One of the other reasons that I love woodworking is, as I've got older, I've become a little bit more nostalgic. And when I was young, everything would have to be new and modern was fantastic. Now nostalgia plays a part, and you could probably tell that when if you've watched the Bench series, then you can probably tell that as I've got older, I have gone down that route. And this comes down to nostalgia. So this sawhorse was built 47 years ago by my father-in-law. Now, they built their own house, so that's why I know it's 47 years old. And it's been in the garage. It's done the odd job. But basically, it's something that's always been part of my good lady's life, because she's always seen her dad working with this sawhorse. He's never bought anything other than this. And I actually sat on this in the garden this morning, 47 years old. It's solid as a rock. It's been kept nice and dry because it was in the garage, but solid as a rock. It's held together with a bit of plywood. It's lovely. There's more knocks and scrapes and bumps and bits of paint on here than you could wish to think, but I'm not going to change that. I am going to sand it down a little bit, just to take some of the splinters away, and I will oil it, because this eventually will be going outdoors. But I'm not going to change too much about it. Now, that goes away from my liking to build brand new things and being perfect. This isn't perfect, but it's what I guess people would call shabby chic nowadays. What I'm going to do is I'm going to be using this wood, this here, to build a box to go on top of it. And that's basically because I'm killing two birds with one stone, and I get two brownie points for my good lady, because one, I've restored that and oiled it and it looks great, and secondly, I've made her a herb box, which is what she wants. So I get 2 good points for the price of one. There's another good reason to be a woodworker. You can please the family no end by giving them nice but thoughtful gifts. So it's out with the orbital sander, and nothing fancy going on here now. It's just, I've got some 80 grit. It's just a matter of taking a bit of this dirt and grime off, really. So as you can see, it cleans up, well, perhaps you can't see, it cleans up quite nicely, but I'm leaving all the marks and little bits of specks and lumps and bumps in it, because that's what gives it its character. And I had a good conversation with my good lady about it, and I said, look, you know, I don't want to take this back because it would take that character away, and she 100% agreed, and that's how she wants it. So that's what she's going to get. So I'm going to do a little bit more sanding, not a huge deal. I'm not going to go down any more than 80 grit, to be honest with you. Otherwise, it'll start giving a fine finish, and it's not about being a fine finish. This is going to be a nostalgic piece. So that's literally it. That's all I'm doing. Lots of scabby marks on it. It's fantastic, and I absolutely love it, to be honest with you. I'm going to put a coat of oil on it now. I think it would be interesting or it would certainly be interesting for me. But if I asked you two questions, perhaps you could put them in the answer in the comments. Was one, why did you start woodwork? For me, I can't remember not doing woodwork. I was brought up with it as a child, but especially if you came to it later in life and just picked it up for, there was a specific reason why you picked it up. And secondly, why you woodwork. And perhaps a third question, what do you get out of woodworking? I just get an immense amount of satisfaction. Right, let's get this stirred up and get some oil on this. Okay, I'm going to put on a good healthy dose of oil on this, because it's going to be living outdoors, although it's a herb garden, so chances are I'll go in the shed in winter anyway, but just want to make sure it's well oiled and get plenty in there. This do you know what? Don't you just love wood when you're oiling it? I think I mention it in virtually every single video I mention finishing, because I just love seeing. Let me just put a bit on here for you. It just brings out everything. Now in this case, it's bringing out all the saw marks and everything, but that's just what I wanted. So don't you, that's one of the joys. So there's another good reason to be a woodworker. Okay, that's all drying up quite nicely, that is now. What have I been doing? I have put together a box, okay, and I've done mitered corners, I've rounded over the edges, I have screwed it and I put in some plugs, and on the bottom I've just used a bit of cheap white wood just to give it a base, because there's going to be potted plants in there basically. Now I haven't stained or anything this or oiled it. So basically it's going to be like that, but I'm a little bit unsure. I'll attach it to the sawhorse. I'm going to take a photograph of it and show my good lady and see what she wants to do color wise on that. I don't want to do anything with this because that's just purely oiled, and that's about keeping it as it was. So that's it, very simple little box. But that's what woodworking means to me. Basically, it doesn't have to be a complicated or a sophisticated job. It's just a matter of putting the box together, light sand on that, bit of stain on it, not stain, oil, sorry, bit of oil on it, and you've got something that's pleasing to the recipient. I know it will be pleasing to the recipient because it's, as I said earlier in the video, it's two birds with one stone. She gets a little herb garden, some little potted herbs, and also she gets to keep her dad's sawhorse intact. So that's, for me, is a huge part of why I do this. As I said earlier, though, it'd be nice, it really would be nice if you could leave a comment saying, you know, why you got into woodwork, what type of woodwork do you enjoy, all of these little things that perhaps will form part of the community once the channel grows a bit. Just making sure that we all know that why each other are doing it, and most of the reasons will overlap because of a lot of us are like-minded people. So that's my question. Why do we woodwork? That was the question I came with, and I think in my own head I'm pretty certain about why I do it. Maybe the video has given you a sort of food for thought as to why do you woodwork. Okay, until the next video, take good care of yourselves.